poor soul!" cried Mrs. Jennings as soon as she was gone. "How it grieves me to see her! It is the oddest thing to me that a man should use such a pretty girl so ill. But when there is plenty of money on one side, and next to none on the other, Lord bless you, they care no more about such things."
"The lady, then, Miss Grey, I think you called her, is very rich?"
£50,000, my dear, and by all accounts it won't come before it's wanted, for they say he is all to pieces. Well, my dear, 'tis a true saying about an ill wind, for it will be all the better for Colonel Brandon. He will have her at last, aye, that he will. I shall spirit up the Colonel as soon as I can, if we can but put Willoughby out of her head."
"Aye, if we can do that, ma'am," said Elinor, "we shall do very well with or without Colonel Brandon." And then rising, she went away to join Marianne. Colonel Brandon came in while the party were at tea, and by his manner of looking around the room for Marianne, Elinor immediately fancied that he neither expected nor wished to see her there, and, in short, that he was already aware of what occasioned her absence. He shortly afterwards drew a chair close to hers, and inquired after her sister. "Marianne is not well," she said. "She has been indisposed all day, and we have persuaded her to go to bed." "Perhaps, then," he hesitatingly replied, "what I heard this morning may be. There may be more truth in it than I could believe possible at first." "What did you hear?" "That a gentleman, whom I had reason to think... in short, that a man whom I knew to be engaged... But how shall I tell you? If you know it already, as surely you must, I may be spared." "You mean," answered Elinor with forced calmness, "Mr. Willoughby's marriage with Miss Grey? Yes, we do know it all." "And your sister, how did she, Her sufferings have been very severe. Till yesterday, I believe, she never doubted his regard. He has been very deceitful, and in some points there seems to be a hardness of heart about him." "Ah," said Colonel Brandon, "there is indeed. But your sister does not consider it quite as you do. You know her disposition, and may believe how eagerly she would still justify him if she could." He made no answer, and soon afterwards the subject was dropped. From a night of more sleep than she had expected, Marianne awoke the next morning to the same consciousness of misery, in which she had closed her eyes. Elinor encouraged her as much as possible to talk of what she felt, and before breakfast was ready, they had gone through the subject again and again, with the same steady conviction and affectionate counsel on Elinor's side, the same impetuous feelings and varying opinions on Marianne's as before. While the sisters were together in their own room after breakfast, Mrs. Jennings, with a letter in her outstretched hand, entered, saying,
"Now, my dear, I bring you something that I am sure will do you good."
Marianne heard enough. In one moment her imagination placed before her a letter from Willoughby, full of tenderness and contrition, instantly followed by Willoughby himself rushing eagerly into the room. The work of one moment was destroyed by the next. The handwriting of her mother, never till then unwelcome, was before her. The letter brought little comfort. Willoughby filled every page. Her mother, still confident of their engagement, had such a conviction of their future happiness in each other that Marianne wept with agony through the whole of it. All her impatience to be at home again now returned. Her mother was dearer to her than ever, dearer through the very excess of her mistaken confidence in Willoughby, and she was wildly urgent to be gone. Elinor offered no counsel of her own, except of patience till their mother's wishes could be known, and at length she obtained her sister's consent to wait for that knowledge. Mrs. Jennings left them earlier than usual, went out alone for the rest of the morning. Elinor, with a very heavy heart, aware of the pain she was going to communicate, then sat down to write her mother an account of what had passed. Marianne, who came into the drawing-room on Mrs. Jennings going away, remained fixed at the table where Elinor wrote. In this manner they had continued about 1/4 of an hour, when Marianne, whose nerves could not then bear any sudden noise, was startled by a rap at the door.